episode of BnA Sports Podcast. I haven't recorded any of this podcast yet. Usually I record this when it's just like, oh, I've had a couple scenes in. But if you don't know what this series is, basically like an hour-long show where we go through NFL topics, lists, rankings, react to people's rankings, hot takes, worst takes, and a couple other fun topics that, a video by themselves isn't that great, but if you combine them together, it becomes something magical. So, definitely do subscribe on Apple Podcasts if you listen to that on there. Like the video and check out the timestamps in the description to skip around, because if you watch this the whole way through, you're a bit of a maniac. But let's just get right into it and enjoy the show. All right, and welcome to Where I Was Right, Where I Was Wrong. This one's going to be brief because, not a lot of things are happening. So I'm just really enjoying sports and everything like that. What I was right about was the NBA. I said that they wouldn't return after April 15th. I put a bet on it. I put some money on it. And it still hasn't happened yet. And it looks like they're going to open up June 1st. I'm not too sure if my bet is going to go through because the regular season isn't continuing. But, I was right about that bet. I've been making a lot of bets behind the scenes with my analytics and my numbers. So we'll see how those go into fruition. I bet the Bulls under 32 wins. They were on pace for 27, 26. So I was also right about that. Some of my over-under bets looked like they were going, but some of my bets that didn't look like they were going well, where I was wrong was I bet the Nashville Predators, they really did underperform. I haven't been watching a lot of hockey, but I know that they're underperforming. I don't think they're in the playoffs. Neither are the Montreal Canadiens. I put money on them. Neither are the Rangers. I put money on them. I'm not too sure if I'm going to get my money back. It wasn't that much money. It was only $10 total. But yeah, I kind of want my money back at this point. The season isn't going as it was planned and that sort of thing. So definitely my hockey bets weren't going well. Some of my NBA bets were going well, but I was doing those throughout the season. I was doing the Bucks, Lakers, Clippers throughout the season. All of them were 3-1. So if you bet two of them, you're kind of making your money back if one of them wins. So you're kind of hedging your bet in that way. We'll see how that ends up working out. But that's not where I was right or where I was wrong. I also said DeAndre Baker. He may be a little bit more of a hassle than it would be to keep. Now, he may be ultra-focused, but I was really low on DeAndre Baker about a week and a half ago. I was like, guys, are we sure that he's going to be a rebound? Everyone says that they're going to have a breakout year. I'm not too sure. And lo and behold, that ended up going like that. So the next thing I was wrong about, which is just a bunch of trades. I said Dak is going to get traded. I wanted the Cowboys to get a replacement behind Dak. I've said that. I'm like, you have to create some leverage here. And I had no idea that Andy Dalton would do it. And that makes so much sense. And looking back on my videos, I'm like, yeah, I should have mentioned Andy Dalton. I wondered why I didn't. I don't know why. But yeah, so I was wrong about the Dak Prescott. Apparently he's going to be a Cowboy. Looks like there's a lot of tension, but it seems like he's going to be a Cowboy. I said you need to get rid of him. Looks like Cowboys are going to hold strong with him. And whether it's good or bad, I don't really care. Actually, I do care. Hopefully it's bad. I'm a Giants fan. I'm biased like that. And the next thing I was right about. I've said in the past that when you play football, you have to be committed to your team. And Yannick Ngakoue doesn't seem like he's doing that. It seems like he's just kind of, laissez-faire. And I said, I'll be surprised if Yannick Ngakoue makes it on a team. I was wrong about Jadeveon Clowney making it to a team. I'm like, he's going to have a huge market. But apparently he doesn't. So Yannick Ngakoue, I said he wouldn't have a market. And I said the Giants should not sign him. I didn't think they would. I was right about that. We have some more candidates that we can sign, but I think I'm just certain that the Giants are done with free agency. We're not going to sign a Jadeveon Clowney, who I didn't mind. We'd sign, but I assumed Jadeveon Clowney would join a team. I wouldn't assume people would just be running away from him. $14 million, just offer him 3 years or 1 year. He's going to take that contract. Why isn't a team picking him up? I'm really confused. I made a video why aren't the Lions? Why aren't the Jets? They're losing to Logan Ryan. They're losing to Jamal Adams. Well, Logan Ryan as far as they're not picking him up. So bolster your pass rush. You have a couple of studs like Quinn and Williams who didn't perform that well, but you also have some edge guys that are, questionable there. It's kind of like mid-tier guys that you're afraid to get rid of. But yeah, that's pretty much where I was right, where I was wrong about. There's not too many things going on. Let's just end it there. And before I start rambling on and start making up BS things about where I was right, where I was wrong, let's move on to the next segment. Actually, no. Before that, Taysom Hill. I want to mention Taysom Hill. I said the Saints aren't committed to him. I said he's a glorified Tim Tebow. I also said that about Lamar Jackson, but I'm serious about Taysom Hill. The Saints don't like him. And yeah, I'm going to see it before I believe it. And I'm saying on record now, Taysom Hill is not going to start a game for the New Orleans Saints this year, next year, or even the year after. Whether it's injury, whether it's because the Saints don't trust him, whether it's whatever. That's my opinion. And yeah, let's move on to the next segment. All right, and welcome to the next segment. And today not today, but the segment what we're going to do is rank and look at the USA Today's past predictions and projections from the NFL season. The furthest I see it went back was 2017. So yeah, let's compare. Let's start with 2017. And they said the Cowboys would have 11 wins. They had 9. Then the Giants said they'd have 10 wins coming off that season where they lost against the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. They had 3. The Eagles 9. They ended up winning 13 and winning the Super Bowl. So the thing to learn about this is obviously projections are not exact, duh. And yeah, so good teams are going to end up being bad because of their record, because of their schedule, or whatever. They had the Patriots at 16 wins. They had 13, ended up going to the Super Bowl and losing. They had the Jets at 1-15. That hype of they're going to be one of the worst teams, it didn't happen. The Browns 4-12. They ended up being the worst team and not winning a game that season, if you guys remember that. They were right about some teams, though. They were right about the Bears at 5-11. They're right about the Ravens at 9 wins, Chargers at 9 wins as well. And this year, they didn't really do that. It seemed like they're getting better year after year. We'll get to that later. They didn't really have a Super Bowl winner, but they had some wild cards. Said the Ravens would make the wild card. I don't think they made it. I think that was the game where the Bengals ended up, playing spoiler a little bit like that. They had the Raiders at 11 wins coming off a playoff push, I think, in 2016. They ended up winning 6 games. And they had the Chiefs at 8-8. They ended up winning 10. But overall, they were kind of right. They underestimated the Rams coming back and winning 11 games. But overall, they were only a couple games off with a lot of these picks. The most wrong they were was the NFC North. They had the Packers at 12 wins. They ended up only winning 7, and the Vikings ended up winning that division at 13. So overall, kind of decent. This definitely does help if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I'll try to do my best with this next projection. In 2018, they had the Chargers making the Super Bowl and losing to the Falcons. Falcons ended up only with 7 wins that season. They've kind of been on the Chargers hype even in 2019, as we'll see. And the Chiefs, they had it 7-9. They went 12. The Raiders at 7-9 as well. They went the opposite way. They only had 4 wins. They got the Rams hype right. The 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that's the season he got in. No, that wasn't the season he got injured. They were starting like Blaine Gabbert and stuff. They still went 7-9, which is fairly impressive. I mean, no, they went 4-12. Never mind. Sometimes they get a little bit torn like that. They didn't have a good roster at all. The Cardinals really fell off. So they kind of overestimate teams that have good talent, that have good coaches, and they underestimate teams that have good talent. So I think I said that right. And then the Jaguars, they ended up making the AFC Championship that year. They had them the year before. They ended up with only 5 wins. The Texans they got right. The Titans they got around right. And the Colts coming back with Andrew Luck. They had them at 10 wins. And yeah, so overall they were semi right about with these teams. I realize now with the 49ers, that was the season where Jimmy Garoppolo got injured. I'm a little bit torn off. They were right about the Jets. The AFC East, man, they nailed. Besides the Bills, who ended up with 6 wins after Josh Allen, I guess they didn't really believe in him. And again, coaching, they really underestimate coaching. Teams like the Steelers, and they have good coaches, and they're going to be there perennially. So they kind of underestimate that sort of thing. The Cowboys, they had 7-9. Same thing with Giants and Redskins. They had good coaching. They won 10 games, and overall they were fairly solid. They upcoming teams like the Bears, they don't really see. And that was before they got Khalil Mack. I understand completely. But yeah, so they had them at 7 wins. They ended up winning 12. They were all over the show. Some things were spot on. Others were so far off. And obviously it comes with luck and different things like that. The Chargers ended up doing really well, but, not making the Super Bowl, but losing to the Patriots. And the Falcons, again, didn't make the playoffs, and that was their Super Bowl winner. Same thing with me. So I had the Falcons win the Super Bowl that year. So basically I should learn to not follow them. And yeah, so 2019, let's take a look at it. They had the Chargers at 12-4 and actually winning the Super Bowl. They only had 5 wins. They were kind of right about the Chiefs at 11 wins. They said 11. They actually had 12. The 49ers, I put a bet on it that they'd win the division. USA Today agreed with me. They knew the Rams would fall back a little bit. The Seahawks ended up getting a little bit lucky. So underestimated their win total. But overall, they did fairly solid last year. The Packers got a little bit lucky. They were a 9-7 type team. The Bears, they didn't really get unlucky. They just weren't really that good. And then the Steelers had a little bit of injury luck. The Browns fell off. They really didn't see the Ravens. Nobody really did, besides, the 1-2 people on NFL.com that are taking all the credit now. They had the Bengals at the worst team, which I agreed with. The Dolphins, again, good coaching, but underestimated their coaching. They just looked at the talent. The Bills, they knew would play pretty well. They got a little bit lucky last year. Almost challenged for the division at the end. The Colts, they ended up winning 7. That's a little bit of injury luck. They said the Jaguars would come back, which I said that they would because of Nick Foles. That ended up not happening. So teams with a bunch of hype that win the offseason, yeah, they don't really do that well. They had the Titans at 9-7, a little bit of meme. Yeah, same thing like that. So if a team brings in a new quarterback, usually they're not going to do that well. The rosters, I guess, is all right, but it takes a while to mesh. Same thing with the Colts. You had a new quarterback. This is before Andrew Luck's injury, but you guys get the point. They had the Redskins exactly right at 3 wins. Same thing with the Lions, but the Lions weren't a 3-13 talent. They got really unlucky. They kind of lucked into that one. They had the Bucs at 5-11, which is about right for their talent. Jameis actually did pretty well last year, but again, focus on coaching. The whole thing is coaches usually overperform. The Falcons underperformed. They had 11 projected and 7 total. The Saints, good coaching. 10 projected, 13 total. So it's obviously there's luck and coaching involved. And let's take a look at 2020. This is the reason why I'm doing this. So you have the Giants at 2 wins. Now, obviously, that would suck. We'd have to debate getting Trevor Lawrence, which is maybe what we're going to do. I'll have a little bit of a segment on that later. So you take a look at it. Good coaches are going to thrive. The Broncos, they have good coach. Chargers, I don't really trust them. It's a bunch of talent. They could easily go 6-10 again. Raiders, I can see them at 10-6, but I can also see them at 5-11. I think the Raiders are going to be a little bit better than 7-9. The Browns, I'm not too sure about their coaching. Bengals, they have them low because of their coaching. Bringing a new quarterback, I wouldn't be surprised if they only have 4 wins this year. Good coaching on the Titans, still 9-7 for the memes. Texans have a good quarterback, so they should be 8-8. Jaguars, bad coaching. They're going to be at the bottom of the basement. I agree with that. Bills at 10-6, they have good coaching. That's what should they be around. I think Josh Allen takes a little bit of a step back this year. But yeah, the Patriots, good coaching. Their roster screams 6-10. But, they're going to be better. They're going to be 8-8. Won't be surprised 9-7. The Dolphins have good coaching, but I won't be surprised if they're a top 10 pick. The Jets, questionable coaching. And overall, the entire thing, they haven't really learned. I think the Giants have better coaching than 2-14. The Panthers are about right 3-13 because they're bringing in Matt Rule. The Bears, I think they've improved their coaching. I think that they're learning, so I don't think they'll be at the basement 3-13, barring unforeseen circumstances like the Lions with the quarterback getting injured. Even if he does get injured, the backup, Nick Foles and Mr. Trubisky isn't much of a fall off. I think they're overestimating the Falcons. They don't really have great coaching. They have 10 Pro Bowlers on their offense, but I don't really like that. The Bucs, I think they're going to be better than 10-6, but it's a new roster, new quarterback, so I definitely understand that. And I think the Packers, jump back a little bit too. They're a 10-6, 9-7 roster, and maybe they get a little unlucky and they fall to 8-8. I'm not sure. The Cardinals have a good roster. Don't really trust their coaching. I trust the Rams coaching a little bit more. A lot of people have the Rams behind the Cardinals, but I can definitely see it both ways. And Seahawks obviously have good coaching. They have Russell Wilson. But yeah, overall, this is solid. I don't have a lot of disagreements, and I'll make my official predictions later. But overall, this is a solid prediction. I think that the Ravens jump back a little bit, even though they have good coaching, brought in a bunch of free agents, and won the offseason. Teams will win the offseason a little bit overhyped. I think the Colts 11-5. I don't really love their coaching. So overall, this is a solid prediction, and I think that they'll do better than what they did last year. The Ravens and the Saints, with the Saints winning the Super Bowl. I don't love it, but I can definitely see it happening. And yeah, so hopefully you guys did enjoy this segment because we're going on to the next one. All right, and welcome to the next segment of the BnA Sports Podcast. And today we're talking about my next 5 Super Bowl champions. And we did this last year. And last year I predicted the Chargers versus the Bears, I think. And none of those teams made the playoffs. In fact, both of those were in the bottom half of the league. So, we get some right, you get some wrong. And this year, this is not my official prediction for this year. I'm going to have it more in August. And yeah, so this year it would have been Falcons-Colts. That's the one I predicted for this year. I'm off on the Falcons. I really am. And I just think, you have 10 out of 11 Pro Bowls. But you know what the New York Knicks had a couple years? They had like all former all-stars and stuff like that. You had Derrick Rose, you had Carmelo Anthony. But, they're no good when they're a couple years past their prime. It's one of those things. And, they have Kristaps Porzingis. It's a good roster if it was playing a couple years ago. Obviously, Kristaps wasn't in the league, but you guys get the point. So the Falcons are one of those teams. I'm starting to get higher and higher on the Colts the more I look at Phillip Rivers. I just question, since he's been playing one way so long of, like, airing it down the field, is he still going to make those interceptions? Like, last year, adjusted interceptions is 30 for him. And that's a lot, That would have been second in the league. I think he still was second in the league, Baker and Jameis, whatever like that. So this year, I think that the Chiefs represent the AFC. I just can't not pick them. I think their defense is a little bit overrated, but Spagnuolo, I like this whole roster. I was so close to picking the Ravens, but I think they might. I think they have just as good a shot as the Chiefs. I think it's 50-50, but I'm going to pick the Chiefs because they're riding high. You have a new running back. You have Edwards-Helaire. You have Damian Williams. You still have all those weapons. Now, Patrick Mahomes, I think long-term his injuries are going to be a problem. I think that he's going to end up more like a Tony Romo. I'm not saying his play style is like Tony Romo. I'm just saying, a good, solid player that can't stay healthy. And, Tony Romo, a lot of his career is really underrated, lifting a worse team. But Patrick Mahomes has a good team. That's, the difference. And a really, really elite coach. Not that Tony Romo didn't. But, I think that the Chiefs should be favored next year. And, especially if they win that number 1 seed and their schedule allows for it, they do play in a tough division. But if they go with the Ravens division, are you really going to sleep on the Bengals next year as much as you want to laugh about that? Are you really sleep on the Steelers, the Browns next year? I was also thinking about the Steelers. I was also, believe it or not, thinking about the Browns. But that division, I think they're all just going to fight and scratch and claw. None of them are going to be in a good position for the playoffs. But, I think that I just think that the Chiefs are the better team. And then for the NFC, I have the Buccaneers. Tom Brady, imagine hosting every single home playoff game. That'd be insane. I was also thinking the Saints. I'm also thinking some other teams like the Eagles and stuff like that. Maybe the Vikings. But in the end, I think the Bucs are just a better team. You take a look at Tom Brady. He's moving on. He's working on his footwork. And, eventually he's going to fall off. But his arm is still strong. He has all those weapons. And he has a decent enough offensive line to keep him upright. And I think that this team is really going to focus on, what they need to in the offseason because it's Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady's not all of a sudden just going to be relaxed. Oh, I'm out of Bill Belichick. That means I don't have to work hard. No, he's going to work even harder to prove Bill Belichick wrong. And we've seen Psycho Tom before. And then, let's go through the rest of them really quick. Next year, I have the Baltimore Ravens because I think Lamar Jackson, falls off this year a little bit, and then he has no pressure next year. You can say more pressure he'll have, but, you'll replace probably Marshawn Yonda. You have guys in the draft that you've gotten over the past couple years, like a Patrick Queen, that are going to be able to replace guys like Calais Campbell and guys, not like Jimmy Smith, but guys like Earl Thomas. I think those guys, you're going to have a young core next year, and this year is a year to kind of like grow them up and, foster them. I think that the Ravens are going to have a really solid team next year. And take a look at the division as well. They're going to be primed. Do the Browns get rid of Baker Mayfield? The Bengals, Joe Burrow, I still don't love them. And then the Steelers with Big Ben Roethlisberger, he's probably going to be retired. So, or just really old. And we'll see about that. And then you take a look at the rest of the teams. Are you really scared of the Bills? So I think the Ravens are the class of this. And then, believe it or not, I'm picking the Lions to go to the Super Bowl next year. Now, here's why. So, Matt Stafford, this is the year that he needs to prove that he can be healthy. And I think that this year they have a really good shot to be kind of like the 49ers of last year. The team that started off really well with their new quarterback, or the new quarterback, new system. And they started off really well. They almost beat the Chiefs. They were a drive away from being the Chiefs. Matt Stafford was driving down that game. It wasn't for like one fumble, they would have won that game. And so I think that the Lions have a legitimate shot. Now, they have only won one playoff game in the past 63 years. It would be 64 probably next year because I don't think they're going to win a playoff game this year. So it's a lot to say. I just think that fire Matt Patricia and bringing new coach in, Darrell Bevell has worked well with Matt Stafford so far. And then you have a defense with Jamie Collins. You're going to have to get probably rid of one of your linebackers, whether it's Jared Davis or whatever, because they're not good enough. But you have Jeff Okudah in his second year. And, I think that this secondary, you look at it, it's just like, this is going to be pretty good. Especially if this year, if they suck again and Matt Stafford gets injured again, then I'd be like, oh, my God. If they have a top 5 pick, they pick either a left tackle or they pick the defensive end, and they can do it. Especially if they had Jadeveon Clowney. Bring him in. Why not? I know it's Patriot system, but I don't trust. The only thing is I don't really trust Bob Quinn, and that's really what's holding me back. And then for next year, the year after that, you know what? It just becomes a hogwash. And I'm picking the Giants because you'll have Daniel Jones still in his rookie deal. He would be in his 4th year. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. He would be in his 4th year. And so the Giants make it to the Super Bowl. You have an up-and-coming roster, so it's not impossible. And the Giants, yeah, I think Joe Judge is legit. I don't really love Patrick Graham. I think he may be out by then. But you're going to have, just bring in Wade Phillips. Bring in a trusted defensive coordinator. I don't want to become like the Dallas Cowboys with Jason Garrett and Wade Phillips necessarily. But Jason Garrett may even have a new head coaching job. I don't know. But, yeah, I think the Giants take a look at their entire roster. You have Saquon Barkley in his 5th-year option. He's going to want to fight for his contract. You have a lot of guys that are motivated. I think we're going to have a pretty good cap situation then. I don't want to get too much into detail, but I'm picking the Giants. And then if you look at the AFC, it really becomes, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it's the Patriots. Maybe they get a new quarterback. Maybe it's Trevor Lawrence. So why not? I'm going to pick the Giants versus the Patriots. This is just fun. This is the off the cuff because we can't get too analytical. You have to be kind of fun when you do these things. So you have Bill Belichick. He may get frustrated and leave. I can definitely see that. Just like, okay, I'm going to retire in Miami, move away Brian Flores. I'm going to do something like that. Or he could pick a quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, pick him out of the bunch, and he can rebuild his roster. I give it a couple years and they can do it. I just don't think it's going to happen this year. And then the year after that, you really have to start going with good coaches. That's what really wins long-term in this league. Russell Wilson's going to be retired. You're going to have a lot of these quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be out of the league. So it may be like an up-and-coming rookie that we don't see. Maybe it's that guy out of North Dakota State who ends up winning the Heisman. And it depends what team he goes to. Winning the Heisman next year and whatever. He goes to a D2 school. Anyway, so you could have a player that we don't know right now that's going to end up leading a team. And that's what's so exciting about it. Because imagine 4 years ago saying Patrick Mahomes is going to the Super Bowl. You'd be like, who? Like, you had no idea, which is what's fun about this league. So I'm picking the 49ers. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to find the quarterback that he loves. We've seen it. Like Andy Reid found the quarterback that he loved finally. So I'm going to pick the 49ers again. Your defense is starting to get aged a little bit, so you may have to do a little bit of a rebuild there as far as paying. But I think that they're smart. I think that they're GMs, and they make smart decisions. Trading back one spot with the Bears, they're a smart organization. I'm going to pick the 49ers, and then they're going to play the Las Vegas Raiders. John Gruden gets his quarterback as well. That's the theme of this. You take a look, they're an up-and-coming roster. Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs is going to be in his 5th year, whatever. I think that Josh Jacobs is a solid running back. And you take a look at this offensive line, you're going to get rid of Incognito, but I think you're still going to have Trent Brown. I think you're going to draft the early guy that's going to work out. So your offensive line is going to be solid. And then I think eventually you're going to have to find out your corners. You drafted Damon Arnett. You also have, do they still have Connolly? I don't think so. But, your secondary is a little bit weak. They did bring in Prince Amukamara. But, I think that this Raiders team could be fairly solid. So 49ers, Las Vegas Raiders for Super Bowl number 58, I think, if I'm not mistaken, counting it wrong. And then 59, Super Bowl 59 in 2024. I'm losing track. 2025, I think that would be, because 2021 would be the first. Oh, yeah, so 2025. I honestly, I'm going to throw a shot in the dark. Broncos, Saints. All right? Sean Payton's a good coach. Drew Lock, he may work out there, he may not. But, the Broncos consistently make it over their history. The Saints, they're going to have a new quarterback, and Sean Payton's going to have his toys. And he's been able to put up a good roster for the past couple of years. Now, do they die? Or do they die and rebuild? It's a lot of things. There's so many things up in the air that I can't speak concretely about. But that's my predictions this year. Eventually, I'm going to be right with one of these, right? 1-15, 1-15. It may work out. But I hope you guys did enjoy this segment, and let's move on to the next one. Okay, and welcome to the next segment in the video. A little bit of a voice crack there, but I want to mention my top NFL coaches, my NFL coaches tier list. And if you're unfamiliar with this is basically something I'm starting to do every single year. I did it last year with some accuracy. I didn't really know a lot about every single team last year, but I did it. Well, what I did was, with defenses, offenses, or quarterbacks rather, and then coaches, you add them all up, and then you add a 1 or 2 point adjustment. If they're S tier, they get 6 points. If they're A tier, they get 4, all the way down to 0 for F tier. And today we're going to do coaches, then we add them all up and see who the best teams are. And I already have my final ranking, so it's kind of weird going through it. I already have my final ranking and everything like that, but we'll get to that in a couple of weeks. I'm going to rank my S tier quarterback coaches: Belichick, Reed, Arians. That was the same as it was last year, and I think it's the same now. Belichick is going to have a lot coming this year. He's going to have the biggest challenge of his career. Jarrett Stidham, not too many guys talent-wise on defense. He can blame it on his his son, all he wants. But, they lost Jamie Collins. They lost Kyle Van Noy. He did bring back Devin McCourty, but really, are you really confident in him? Your defensive line is getting old. You lost Trey Flowers last year. Do you trust Lawrence Guy? Do you trust these edge rushers? Do you trust the guys that you drafted? I don't really think so. Bill Belichick is a good talent evaluator, but I don't think he does that well in the draft because he overthinks it. Reed, Arians, brilliant offensive minds, can work with any quarterback, and if they get the quarterback they like, a.k.a. Tom Brady / Patrick Mahomes, they can take that next step, and we saw that with Andy Reid. Then my A-tier quarterbacks, Peyton, Shanahan, Zimmer, Harbaugh, and McDermott. These are perennial teams that you can trust that are going to be great no matter what they have. Peyton's going to come up with some brilliant offensive scheme that I don't understand, obviously, because I don't really know a lot about football. Shanahan has had struggles in the playoffs, but overall, he's just a solid play caller. He's a solid play designer. He made Jimmy Garoppolo successful. I know Jimmy Garoppolo is the next coming of Tom Brady, but that's still fairly impressive. To have a guy like that. He has been successful with other quarterbacks, but he still made Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard look pretty good. And then Zimmer, he's like number 6 or number 7, and overall just like, what do you call it? Oh, not over under, but like against the spread margin, he's great like that. Every single year, it brings Minnesota to be a pretty good team. There's very few years where they go like 4-12. Every single year, they're good. Same thing with the Ravens. Struggled a little bit, Joe Flacco, but that's understandable. Special teams coordinator Harbaugh, he got Judge hired. He's one of those guys that got Judge hired because every single year he's able to put a good team. He's able to adapt, to adjust to his different personnel. And then Sean McDermott, I was thinking about it. I have to put him here. He made the Bills from a bad team to a good team. I know after years and years you get good, talent, but overall he's just able to make this team gel, and he feels Buffalo. Him and their GM, Brian Bean, Billy Bean, whatever, they really feel Buffalo, and they inspire this team to perform at their best. Sean McDermott isn't that bad of a defensive coach either. And then you have the B. This is where a lot of guys are. Your Flores. I had him like C last year because I wasn't sure what to expect. Same thing with Fangio and stuff like that. I wasn't sure what they were going to do. And now that they have another year, they get to move up. McVay, I was thinking about A tier. But, he has to babysit Jared Goff a little bit. He can only do offense. I'm not too sure. You can include defensive coordinators as well in this, I guess. But, they don't have a defensive coordinator. They got rid of Wade Phillips. I don't know who they brought in, but I'm guessing he's not as good as Wade Phillips. Vrabel is here. I didn't hear great things. I heard good things about Vrabel, but, your defensive coordinator now just retired. Are you going to be able to repeat that thing again? But I think Vrabel's a strong coach. He's a B coach. They're going to be 8-8, 7-9. I don't expect them to be plus 500 every single year. But, Vrabel's a solid coach. Tomlin dealt with the Antonio Brown situation. Simple as that. John Gruden. I think I had him here last year. He just wants a better quarterback than Derek Carr. I think he is a little bit too hands-on with the player personnel. I don't like how he brings 50 quarterbacks in. I don't love that. I think he's a great offensive mind for a guy like Derek Carr, who's cerebral, he's smart, and I think he can work with a guy like that, and that's why the Raiders exceeded expectations last year. Though I have to have him be. Carroll, Nagy, and Rivera are my next guys in this list. Carroll, I think, is a little bit overrated. I don't think he's A. I think it's all Russell Wilson. They don't put Russell Wilson in positions to succeed, and yet he still does. The defense, and it has fallen off over the past couple of years. Nagy, he had a couple of scheme problems last year with tight ends. Not committing to the run game when he's just confused right now, and I think he's going to get it together, and he can very well be A next year, but I think I dropped him down to B this year. Rivera, he's solid. He has some 6 and 10 years, but that's when guys get injured. That's when a lot of things happen. Peterson, I was gonna have him A, but I don't know. I was so close to having him A. I just don't think he's quite there yet. I know he's won a Super Bowl. I know the staff is actually pretty good. I may move him up into A in post-production, to be totally honest, because I was so close with this. Frank Reich, I think, is overrated. Last year, you couldn't do a Jacoby Brissett. You had enough offensive weapons. You had enough talent. This is a big prove-it year for him, I believe. He brought in his guy, Phillip Rivers, and we'll see. Stefanski, I think he's really smart, brilliant. think he's perfect for Baker Mayfield of what they want to do. Heavy run, a lot of play action. I think that will help out Baker Mayfield. Judge, McCarthy, Lynn, Kingsbury, Rule, Quinn, and Gase for C. I was thinking about putting Kingsbury in D, but, he stayed another year. He was pretty successful. Kyler Murray had to keep him there. Lynn, I dropped him down a tier. Last year, he wasn't able to make this offensive gel. He lost Melvin Gordon for a while, I understand, and I think they lost a couple wide receivers as well. But you couldn't have this offense gel. You had Philip Rivers, who a top 10 quarterback going into last year. He was in the NFL top 30 going into last year, and you couldn't make him successful. Judge and McCarthy, I'm still out on. This is their first year. I'll keep them at a C. Quinn, I was really close to D. Same thing with Gase. I just have a little bit of respect because Quinn has had success in the past. And Gase, you saw with Ryan Tannehill, he was successful with Ryan Tannehill. He just couldn't get to that next step. And Gase, I think he'll work better with Sam Darnold this year, and that more communication is freer. And then Patricia, Taylor, LaFleur, and O'Brien are my D tier. The Patricia is the reason why I don't think the Lions are successful. People say it's their personnel. I think it's Patricia. They need to blitz more. They need to be more creative on the defense, and as well as their defensive coordinator. They need to blitz the quarterback more. They need to get to the quarterback, and you got to bring Jadeveon Clowney. Taylor, I don't love him. I think Joe Burrow is not set up for success. He's a wannabe Sean McVay. Don't say, oh, you don't know the X's and O's here. I'm not claiming to know them. And then LaFleur, I don't like him at all. I think he's into his head. He's about me rather than team. And, I think he's more about his future. Even though reports have come out saying he wasn't totally in with the pick, I guess. But he was smirking. You had to pick an offensive lineman. David Bakhtiari, I don't think is going to work out. And I think it was a majority of LaFleur's problem. O'Brien, he's smart. He has to be smart. That's why his teams have been successful. But GM-wise, no. And this is not a GM list. It's a coach's list with a little sprinkle. And their offense and defensive coordinator, he does everything. You fired Romeo Crennel now. What are you going to do? I forget who they brought in, but, really. And then Doug Marrone, F. No need to explain. He's smart. He's smarter than me. But every single year it feels like he's limiting the success of this team. And he now he's had to go all in on Gardner Minshew. And he realizes that now. I don't know a bunch about Doug Marrone. I'm not saying I watch every single game. He's decent. He's a decent play caller. He's a decent, taking timeouts. He doesn't make any egregious things, but he can't bring the Jaguars to the next step. And I think it's time for them to move on. And that's my ranking of my coaches tier list. Let me know what you guys think. And next week or 2 weeks, whatever I upload the next one, we're going to do defense.
That is blasphemous. That is blasphemous.
Okay, so the worst take of the week. Usually I just let it play out, but this one's a list. And this is a fixer take, worst take / fixer take. I haven't done this one in a while. So this guy from CBS comes out with the list saying the top 10 young quarterbacks in the league, what they define it as an NFL player in the 2018, 2019, or 2020 draft, the best players coming out. And I agree with the top of the list, Lamar Jackson. I have to give him credit. Patrick Mahomes came out in 2017. So I totally understand how, Lamar Jackson is on the top of this list. But everything else is kind of like a mishmash. So I'm going to give you the list. You can see it on the screen right now. You have guys on the top like Tua and stuff. He hasn't done anything in the league yet, and plus he has an injury history. So how do you all of a sudden just put him on the top of a list like that? Kyler Murray will take a leap in 2020. What tells you that? Lamar Jackson, we saw flashes. Kyler Murray, I think, has a really low ceiling. Not as high as many people think on Kyler Murray. Josh Allen was great on third downs, but his accuracy is going to fail him. I don't think he has a really top-end talent. Then you have Tua, Joe Burrow, Sam Darnold, Gardner Minshew, Baker, Jarrett, and Drew Lock. And there's a notable name missing here, and obviously it's Kyle Allen. Where the hell is Kyle? No, it's Daniel. Where the frick is Daniel Jones on this list? I'm a Giants fan, but you got to realize, where the frick is Daniel Jones on this list? Baker Mayfield's number 8. I think he has a better future right now this season than a Daniel Jones. So my list is Lamar, then it's Baker, because look at all the weapons. He's going to be put in offense fit to his success. Odell still may be a little bit of a distraction. He's a little bit of a finesse. He's like, okay, just get open. Don't forget about the route running, the precision, and being the best you can. Worry about being productive and actually getting the yards. He's kind of gotten away with that. He's gotten too flashy. So Baker would be number 2 on my list. Joe Burrow. He struggles with those out routes, but, you're not going to see this year. He's not going to be amazing this year because of the division. The best 3 pass rushers, and you have a young offensive line with Jonah Williams. You still have somewhat of a right tackle in Bobby Hart, but this offensive line isn't really scaring anybody, especially with these defensive lines in this division. It's going to be kind of scary for him. Then you have a Josh Allen, who I think is more developed this year. I think you bring in Stephon Diggs. He's going to really flourish this year. Offensive line is, it could be better, but you have addressed that in the draft over the past couple of years. You've brought in guys. You brought in Cody Ford as a draft pick. He's going to, I think, develop more this year. You also have veteran guys on that offensive line that I think are going to be productive this year as well. Then I have Jones/Murray tied. But for this list, and the sake of being controversy, I'm putting Jones over Murray. Kyler Murray, you could say, he won Rookie of the Year. Daniel Jones had more touchdowns. He had fewer sacks. He had fewer sacks taken by just, holding on to the ball and trying to extend plays. Kyler Murray is great. I like his running ability, but you have an offense suited to your ability. You have a security blanket in Larry Fitzgerald. You had an offensive line that stayed healthy, and you went 5-11, and you didn't put up really impressive numbers. I could see if you put up 30 touchdowns. I could see if he did something like that, but really? Kyler Murray? I don't understand. And you brought in DeAndre Hopkins. Good for you. But look at your offensive line this year. One guy goes down, I bet you Kyler Murray stinks it up. He had a long stretch during the season where it's just he wasn't playing well. And they weren't playing New England. They were playing Cincinnati and stuff like that. They weren't playing good teams, and he was struggling really bad. And so I'm going to put Jones over Kyler Murray for those reasons. Next, I have Sam Darnold. Now, I like Sam Darnold. I think these 3 guys are about the same exact. I have them the same exact. Sam Darnold wins 7-6. Works with Adam Gase. Does it with not a lot of talent. But is he consistent enough? The game that really concerns me is the Patriots game. You had a game where, you were coming back from mono or whatever like that, but you really had a chance to shine and show who you are, but you just got outmatched. And we really saw Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. That's a rough thing to see in a second-year player. We'll see Daniel Jones may have one of those games, but at least he looks somewhat competent against the Patriots. He looks somewhat competent. Even an interception, it's just if he threw that 1 inch. Sam Darnold is seeing ghosts. And a guy that gets riled like that, kind of like a Jared Goff, it's just oh, wait, your eyeballs kind of raised. Next is Tua, because he hasn't done crap in this league. He's a lefty quarterback. He may be good, but I don't know. That's why I have him down on this list. I'm not saying he's horrible. I'm saying he's better than Drew Lock right now. Drew Lock is good at the short game. He can get the ball to guys. He hasn't really shown me the consistent downfield accuracy that I like to see. But if you can have good short field accuracy, execute the offense, you're good. And he's shown the poise. He just hasn't done it long enough for me to be confident in him. But I think he's better than a Gardner Minshew who, he's flashy. He can run, escape. But can he be a solid pocket quarterback? Is he going to be one of those gadget guys that has to rely on a certain offense to be successful? And then once that offense is solved, you kind of lose it all. But I like Gardner Minshew as a great deep ball, an underrated deep ball. And he's accurate. He has poise. He's smart. But, his talent is not as top end as these sort of guys. I don't think he has the long-term sustainability. I think he's just a little bit of a character that's going to fade out in a couple years. But he's definitely better than a Tim Tebow. That's not really a high standard, but I understand that. And, yeah, that's my list. I have Tua at 8. Sorry. I don't think he's a savior for I want to talk about him a little bit more. He can execute the offense, but he doesn't know what he doesn't know, and that's scary. But I hope you guys enjoy this segment, and we'll go on to the next one. All right, and welcome to my top 5 worst NFL jerseys. And if you don't agree with my list, you are wrong. I uploaded my best jerseys yesterday. In fact, I'm recording this right after I recorded my best jerseys because, why not? Why not? It's fresh in my mind. I have, what I'm thinking about it. So the criteria for this is just regular uniforms. I may do a color rush thing if you guys want. I don't know, a color rush good and bad, or just overall good and bad, including color rush and everything like that in total. But here are my worst uniforms. I'm a Giants fan. I'm not biased whatsoever. The Eagles, the black uniform, what is that? The green is not. It's just an ugly green. I don't like it. The helmet with the wings. I just don't. I don't think it's a good look. It doesn't feel Philadelphia. It doesn't feel strong. I think it's a little bit just bland and dull. And maybe that's what Philadelphia is. But you have the 76ers who have that red, white, and blue. You have the Philadelphia Phillies who have the red and white. So why didn't you go with another thing like that? The Flyers even have that orange, but it just works for them. They have a bunch of light colors. The Eagles definitely struck out on that one. They're number 5 worst on my list. Number 4 is the Dolphins. Now, I think it kind of looks good, but it doesn't feel football. The teal orange, like, it feels Miami. It's good in that sense, but I'm thinking, I'm like, if I see a guy in that jersey, I'm not going to feel scared of him. I'm really not. Maybe with the Eagles jersey, but the Dolphins, I'm definitely not feeling scared about anybody doing it. It's just Josh Rosen. He doesn't do much for me. Miami's all about colorful, bright. Miami Marlins have that weird, like, what is it called? The Miami Heat and Miami Marlins have that, what is it called? I don't know, the name of, like, the style that Miami has. But yeah, so they decided not to do that. They may do that eventually. I think it could be a kind of good look, but then again, it doesn't look tough. It doesn't look mean. And I don't blame them for having all white because it is hot in Miami all the time. And yeah, so next on my list, number 3 is the the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know why I said Philadelphia. I'm kind of tired, but the Falcons, their new jerseys are just awful. I kind of like the throwbacks. I kind of like the throwback Falcon. It's so, like, ugly that it's good. It's kind of like, oh, it's in style. Kind of like the Buffalo Bills logo, kind of like a throwback thing. But it's just the ATL is way too big. It feels like they could have done way more to pop, way more to symbolize the city. I know they tried to symbolize the city somehow with the uniforms and, like, they did some BS, like, something like that. I don't like the black. I think they could have done a way better job. And even their red uniforms, I'm like, it just seems unproportionate. And they could have done, the Buccaneers whipped out a good jersey. The Browns whipped out a good jersey. The Falcons kind of just laid dull. Everyone was excited for the new Buccaneers, and it's just like, oh, the Falcons. Speaking about the Buccaneers, now I was so close to adding the Buccaneers to my list, but you know what? They made Pewter look good. They really did, and they really made a big impact. But the Buccaneers would have been number 3 on my list. Trust me. Tom Brady's gonna rock it. We'll see how he does in those uniforms. How he looks. We'll see how Rob Gronkowski looks. I think they can look pretty good. I'm really mad that they didn't do creamsicle for their alternates. But beggars can't be choosers. The Bengals though, the orange just looks bad with the black. I like their color rush uniforms a little bit better, but it's just the orange. It's like really orange. Like, if you're going to go orange, go creamsicle. Go Buccaneers. Commit to it. Go purple like the Vikings, And it's just, they look kind of out of place. And they should really rebrand or they're going to suck in perpetuity, which they probably will do anyway. So the next, number 1 is Rams. Now, their logo is awful. The Rams' new uniforms, they just copy the Chargers. Like, really, the Giants and the Jets are different. The Knicks and the Nets are different. Way different. And they decided to copy their own thing. The Dodgers and the Angels, they're different. You can name, consistent teams. Chicago, we call it not Bulls. Chicago White Sox and Cubs, completely different. But they decided to copy the own look of their own stadium. Who do they know who's going to be playing? To be totally honest, they may think the Chargers are playing because, the Chargers have been historically not that great. And so are the Rams as well. I don't know what my point's trying to be here, but the both teams are going to be hot and cold this entire process. You're not going to know which game you're going to go to. What happens when they play each other in the same stadium? Like, it's going to be really confusing, and you don't want stuff like that to be confusing. You don't want to be looking onto the field and it's just like, oh, what color is my team's uniform wearing today? I don't know because I didn't check. But yeah, that's my list. Let me know what you guys think, and let's go on to the next segment. Closing time. No, I'm not getting copyrighted. Welcome to the last segment. This is my closing words. This is where I say thank you. We are 2/3 on the way to 1,000 subscribers. Only took me, 5, 6, 7 years to get here. It doesn't matter. I'm just having fun recording in a closet. This audio. I kind of like the audio. I'm not sure how good it's going to come out because I just recorded 6, 7 segments. But we'll see how it ends up working out. I'd like to thank you guys for the support. Obviously, thanks for watching, commenting. I like the back and forth. It seems like I'm kind of nasty sometimes, but I like the kind of back and forth because that's how I learn about different players, how to play the game, and it's all helpful. But today I basically want to finish with kind of a question. What would the Giants do if we get the number 1 overall pick? Because it was suggested by USA Today. We're 2-14. Trevor Lawrence, obviously it depends what kind of season he has. If he has an amazing season, he's the next coming of Andrew Luck, which it used to be a good thing, but now it kind of doesn't mean the greatest thing. If he's the next coming or whatever he develops, he needs to get the ball out a little bit quicker. He needs to read a little bit faster. That's something to look out this year. He does get the ball out. He is accurate. He has a big arm, but mentally processing, he needs to take that next step this year. If we're 2-14, I'd definitely think about it. You'd have to move on from Daniel Jones. And then there'd be maybe, he gets a spot with the Jaguars because we know that the offensive coordinator there really loves John Gruden. John Gruden really loves Daniel Jones. Maybe they give him a shot there in Jacksonville. They bring him in to compete with Gardner Minshew. Maybe they do suck as well, and maybe they get Justin Fields or whatever. But I think it's an option that we really do have to look at. If you get the number 1 overall pick, the top guys next year, there's that cornerback out of Alabama. I think about trading out from that spot. That would be the first thing I think. So you have teams like the Jaguars with 2 picks. Who else has 2 picks? I think another team has 2 picks next year as well. You have the Jaguars pick for 2 first-rounders. Am I stupid? I think I may be stupid. I think the Jaguars are the only team with 2 first-round picks next year. So maybe you trade back with the Jaguars and you get their 2 first-round picks because they're going to be picking high next year as well. That's an option. As far as the other prospects, I don't know a lot about them. But it's supposed to be a decent, quarterback class. You have the guy at North Dakota State. You have KJ Costello, who I think has some drinking problems from what I've heard. I'm not too sure. I didn't really do a lot of research into that. You also have the guy from North Dakota State. I think I already mentioned him, Justin Fields. So there's a lot of quarterback talent. There's also a decent amount of defensive end talent, offensive line talent with BnA. Penei Sewell. Maybe you get rid of Nate Solder and then you draft Penei Sewell on the other side to be your right tackle. He's a physical freak from what I've seen. He's going to be up there. I think pretty much secondary and offensive line highlights. And obviously, the guy that everyone wants, Jamar Chase, is going to be there as well. And I think the guy from Oklahoma State or Alabama or whatever, there's another guy, I forget his name, but he's going to be there as well. So the first thing I think is trade back. And Daniel Jones has, a 20 touchdown, 20 interception year, kind of like a Phillip Rivers did last year, even though they're opposite ends of their career. You're going to have to look at moving on from Daniel Jones. And that'll be sad because it's kind of short, but we'd be excited. I think we'd be excited for a Trevor Lawrence. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that Joe Judge is a good enough coach. We're going to end up with 5-6 wins. We're going to end up with another offensive line with a cornerback, maybe to replace DeAndre Baker. That's my whole opinion about that now. But it's good. It definitely is interesting because it's a situation that's going to happen. We have to run through it. We're not saying that the Chiefs are all of a sudden going to go 1-15. We're saying the Giants are going to go 1-15. They picked number 2, number 6, number 4 in the past years. And, I think the roster has improved, but we have a tough schedule. We had the third easiest schedule last year. Somehow we still ended in the top 5. That's my opinion about that. Let me know, would you guys draft Trevor Lawrence next year? And what situation would you guys do it? But anyway, hope you guys did enjoy this episode of BnA Sports Podcast. Make sure to like and review on all iTunes applications or whatever how that thing works. And I'm going to leave you with my favorite song. It's by, I don't know, but hopefully I don't get copyrighted from it because sometimes I forget to give them credit with the description below. But definitely do let me know about all the topics I discussed in this video, your opinions about them, and I'll see you guys in my next video or content on the internet. Bye, guys.